right, glad to have you back. Yes. Now, over the years, there have been a lot of initiatives aimed at tackling the level of unemployment in the oil-rich Niger Delta region, which many people have described as a ticking time bomb.
Now, one of these initiatives is the Presidential Amnesty Program, which has helped to disarm, demobilize and rehabilitate over 30,000 militants in the region. But the Niger Delta still has a large number of restive groups and youth who have one grievance or another.
Yes, indeed. Now, this has contributed to unemployment in the region. So what can be done to sustain the relative peace being enjoyed in the region?
We have the president of the Ijaw Youth Council, Barrister Beratubo Wilaimi, joining us now to discuss this further. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. Yes, despite the amnesty program put in place, to rehabilitate and demobilize Niger Delta militants, it seems that Niger Delta youths are still angry.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm aware we have the amnesty office that is established by government to handle some of these problems facing the youth in the Niger Delta. But it's just too minute. The problems are too many and too much for the office of the Niger Delta amnesty office to handle. We are talking about unemployment. And of course, unemployment is a problem in this country, particularly in the Niger Delta region. And that's why we are saying that the government of the day, the government must put in deliberate steps to ensure that youth in the Niger Delta are gainfully employed. And until that happens, I cannot, in my position as president of the Ijaw Youth Council, it will be difficult for me to guarantee peace in the Niger Delta.
So are you saying then that all the moves by previous governments, yes, and of course this present government, yes, that has demonstrated a level of seriousness and honesty in tackling the challenge not only of unemployment in the Niger Delta, yes, of course restiveness and all of that, they're going to clean up the increase in the budget for amnesty to 35 billion naira? Yeah, yeah. Are all of those not enough to actually deal with this problem at the root?
Yeah, yes, all that is going on, but of course you will agree with me that development is a continuum. Mm-hmm. Development is part of us, and yes, that must be in the front burner. You are aware that in the Niger Delta, where you have the oil, you will agree with me that you don't have the oil companies situated in the Niger Delta, and that is a big problem. The acting president, in his wisdom, has called on the IOCs to relocate their offices back to the Niger Delta sometime January or February. But to our greatest surprise, the oil companies are adamant on whether to move in or not, and that is not helping the peace we are expecting in the Niger Delta. If you have the oil companies in the Niger Delta region, particularly in the Ijaw territories, these youths will be gainfully employed. And the moment these youths are employed, of course, when you are employed, you go to work 6, 7 in the morning, and you retire back home. You would have been fagged out. You can't be thinking of doing something silly. So we are urging the oil companies to move back to the Niger Delta as directed by the acting president. Of course, in line with the acting president's directive, we as Ijaw Youth Council has given 90 days ultimatum.
I was about to come
90 days ultimatum to IOCs to immediately move back to the Niger Delta.
And if they don't, what happens?
And if they don't, we have what it takes to stop them from taking our oil in the Niger Delta region.
Which is?
We will stop them from taking further oil from the Niger Delta territory.
So isn't that already the reason why the IOCs have concerns about moving their headquarters to the Niger Delta? Because the environment still, for some reason, is still not conducive.
That's not true. It can't say it's not conducive. You will agree with me that oil production has increased in recent time, has increased from 1.7 barrels per day to 2.3 barrels. If you have situation there, why will the production increase? It's a ploy by politicians to paint the region in a dark manner, to ensure that we don't progress.
Okay, but why are groups now giving threats out to members of other tribes in the country that they should leave the Niger Delta region before October 1st?
They used to leave the Niger Delta region?
Yes, militants
No. It's not true. I am president of the Ijaw Youth Council. I directly interface and work with the youth in the Niger Delta. When I talk, they listen to me. But I need the government of the day to relate with us, for me to get back to my people. We are ready to make the atmosphere peaceful for people to come and do business. Okay, not only the IOCs. It's my responsibility to ensure that there is peace in the Niger Delta. But I need the government to do a basic thing. We must be sincere about solving the problems in the Niger Delta.
So what about the plan now by the government to kind of legalize the refineries of the illegal refineries as well?
There's another problem.
There's another problem. The illegal refineries by youths in the
that's another
region.
problem. Before it was oil theft and illegal oil bunkering. Government has come with another nomenclature, the modular refineries. That was what they called oil block so many years ago. Oil blocks were dished out to people, and Niger Delta people were not given. I cannot remember one person from the Niger Delta that has oil block, and that's an aberration. That is the same antics that the government is playing again with modular refineries. And I've said it severally, that until Niger Delta people are owners of modular refineries, you may not have this peace you expect to have.
How do they become
owners?
How
because these boys that are operating the illegal refinery will continue to do that until you empower them legally to stop doing what they are doing
wrong. There seems to be
a
plan on ground now to kind of empower them and let them become legalized.
We are not carried along. We are not. The conditions to get a modular refineries are too stringent. For me, from the Niger Delta, to own a license to operate, I was calling the authorities to relax the conditions. In fact, as a matter of fact, we are saying that we should be given, we should be allowed to operate modular refineries free. We should be given
as indigents
from the Niger Delta, from oil producing community, because we don't have the resources to get the licenses, even though we have the oil. We are poor people, but the oil is the backyard of my grandmother's house. And you send the military to harass us every day, and we will not take it.
So the training of some amnesty beneficiaries that has led to so many first-class graduates have come out of this amnesty program. They've schooled abroad, and many of them have returned home.
Yeah.
Are you saying that these people cannot by themselves begin to, after all, the whole essence of education is to empower you to be a provider of employment?
Yeah, but that's correct, but it's also government's responsibility to provide job opportunities for you. The last government, before the current government at the center, had sent quite a number of our youths to acquire different kind of skills abroad, outside Nigeria and within Nigeria. But I tell you, the danger of exposing somebody and you bring him back without giving him something to do is more than when you had not trained that person. So there is no difference between the person you have sent outside the shores of Nigeria to acquire skill, you bring him back, and he has nothing to do, from the person that has not seen anything in his life.
Is it not a problem of a sense of entitlement? Government has empowered you. You go to school, that's empowerment in itself.
Yes.
Should the people of the Niger Delta, especially the youth, continue to be allowed to have this sense of entitlement? Are the leaders, people like yourself, for example,
yes,
telling the young people what they need to do for themselves? Because at the end of the day, that is really what counts.
Yeah, that's
instead of waiting for handouts from government.
No, we are not just waiting for government. That's what we have been doing. But government has bulk of this job, more of this responsibility. We can only preach to them. I cannot create employment.
But what efforts have you made, really, to reach out to the government? You are the leader of the group, recognized, really, by even by the government.
Yes.
Instead of just handing out threats that, at the end of the day, might not even augur well for the youth of the
region. We are not just dishing out threats to federal government. We are saying we want to work. We are ready to work with the government of the day.
Well, what efforts, really? What cogent efforts have you made?
Three days ago, I was with the coordinator of the amnesty program, my elder brother, General Borough in Abuja, and we had fruitful discussions, and I told him the need. He is saying that in another 2 or 3 weeks, they are going to engage about 10,000 youths in the Niger Delta to look after our pipelines. And I said it should go beyond that, because if you say we are just good at looking after pipelines, what is it? 25,000 naira, 60,000 naira in a month? Then you keep our boys in the forest to look after pipelines. Meanwhile, somebody outside the Niger Delta is siphoning the oil. She
just made a point that after the training, yes, many of your members have been sent abroad to get quality education.
Yes.
When you come back, why not just go into the system? After all, the Niger Delta is part of Nigeria, so why not just go into the system and compete for a good job?
And add value.
The program does not end at training the fellow, it's responsibility of government to train and engage. That aspect is lacking. That aspect is not there. We employ the government to train and find a way to engage these people. Because if you don't engage them, how will you train a pilot? You train a pilot and you don't give him a plane to fly. The man will look for anything to fly, and you know what that means. If he gets something and he flies that, he can fly it to anywhere at the detriment of the economy of this country. And that is what we are guiding against.
So how can that narrative then change in such a way that whatever moves that government, takes up is actually sustainable, whether in the case of the Niger Delta or any other part of the country, especially as it affects the youth? Yeah,
the situation we are talking about is not peculiar to the Niger Delta. It's a challenge everywhere in the country. Just because I'm president of this region, that's what I'm talking about. It's everywhere. So the government should do the needful. Employment, like I've said, if you have the oil companies taking oil in my community and you employ some youth from my community, that will help the situation. But the companies are not doing that. Oil companies are doing business in where they call extravos in Delta State. And it will amaze you to hear that the workers that go to work in that place fly from Lagos to Delta State every day to work in Delta State and return in the evening.
Wow.
And the community in that place does not have drinking water. They don't have electricity. There is a difference between where you have the oil facilities and the indigenes of the community. They are in darkness.
But do you think the Niger Delta youths on their own part have not done enough to publicize the plight of their people, of that region, instead of, because when you talk about the Niger Delta region, the Niger Delta youths, what people will say is, okay, they are violent or they are militants. Has your group done enough to polish the image of the region and then let people see the Niger Delta region for what it is at this moment, that the people are suffering, the fishermen cannot fish anymore, this is the community? What have you done really to let people see the true Niger Delta?
We are carrying out a lot of sensitization tours in the Niger Delta, and that is why I'm here too. It's not correct to say that the Niger Delta people are violent. We are not violent people. It is only when we are pushed the wall. Of course, when you are pushed the wall, you have to bounce back, because you can't go through the wall again. That is the situation. We are very peaceful people. If we are violent people, for crying out loud, why are these people doing businesses particularly the IOCs? I've just told you that the oil production per day has increased from 1.7 to 2.3. How can you get that in a crisis situation? That is another ploy by politicians.
But there were sabotages in the past.
There is nowhere you don't have sabotage now. Okay, so of course, in every community you have some bad ones. Few of them. We can handle such situations.
All right,
we can handle it.
The PANDEF, Pan Niger Delta Development Forum. Yes. They've been engaging with government, and of course they have this 16-point demand on government. Looking at those demands, I can't begin to reel them out now, of course, including the IOCs moving to the south, to the Niger Delta and all of that. Do they represent what the mindset of the Niger Delta youth is right now? Yes, because the composition of PANDEF is really more of elders, people like Edwin Clark and the rest of them. Yes. Okay. Yeah, PANDEF represents the wish and the aspiration of the Niger Delta people, ably led by our national leader, Edwin Clark. I work with him on a daily basis. They had given 16-point agenda to the federal government. Federal government has promised to do a couple of them. One very key thing is the Okerenkogo Maritime University, that the government promised that it will take off in the next academic year. That is fantastic. That is just one thing. We need more things. The East-West Road, if you know, is abandoned. It's a death trap. You can imagine how many people, how many lives were lost on that road every day. Federal governments will fix that road. The Okerenkogo Maritime University should take off. Because when the federal university takes off in that place, it will help the employment situation. People will get employment. It will employ some of these youths that are being agitated. You wake up in the morning and the first person that you see by your door is a military man with all kinds of weapons. That is not what we want. If it's a military solution, this problem would have been over some 2-3 decades ago. The problem does not lie with the military. The problem is that answer is that you must talk with the people. It's not a military solution, it's a political situation. Okay, and I use this opportunity to urge the government to stop antagonizing some of the youths who are in different prison formations in Nigeria for doing nothing. If somebody has committed a crime and you want to prosecute the person, you just keep somebody in prison for more than necessary, and you don't allow the person to have access to his legal representative. Barrister Roland Peretubo Owelaimi, thank you so much. He's the president of Ijaw Youths Council Worldwide. We hope to see you again.
It's my pleasure. I will always come when you invite me.